the way that you talk is not just limited to the acronym of STEM. The subject areas that you bring into it, it is like well beyond those 4 subject areas. So I'm wondering if you could potentially like talk about some of the affordances and constraints of having it labeled as STEM, and maybe even proposed, should we call it something else or just keep calling it STEM?
Well, I love adding the A in there for the arts. I love that. Even if you could add every other letter of the alphabet with it, it's great. Because you know what? Naturally, I see the arts in math, in science. I mean, I look at a cocoon, I look at a leaf, I look at a raindrop, and you know what? Yeah, there's science and math and even engineering and technology to that. But guess what? They are artistic. They are beautiful. They make a really cool sound when that raindrop hits the ground and goes plink or plop. But every one of those things, I mean, yeah, we could add all those letters to it. I just like the STEM acronym because I think it draws that focus of these are all these subjects that really do kind of connect together. And almost what it's doing is it's starting to say, maybe there isn't so much of a dividing line between math and science and technology and engineering, of course, too. I can teach math and I can also teach science with my certifications and stuff, but I'll always be asking the kids, well, what are you doing in science? Or this thing that we're doing right now in algebra is going to help you in chapter 4 in science, because I've built that connection with a science teacher at my school. I know what they're going to be doing. So it's already, I guess, it's saying all these things are kind of similar. Let's group them together. It's going to connect. But yeah, does history connect? Sure, it does. Does social studies connect? Yes. Does the arts? Does music? Does PE? Yes, it all connects. I think it just draws a great focus on all those very nerdy, geeky subjects, which are great words, by the way, nerdy and geeky. Just like a bookworm is a good descriptor too. I want kids to be proud of those terms, actually. I'm proud of to be all 3 of those. If we had to get rid of the STEM acronym, that's fine, because I'll just start talking about, let's make education relevant, because I think that's really what it really comes down to.
Yeah, part of that question is like a selfish question, because so when I was writing my dissertation, I was looking at this discussion forum, had like over 10,000 people on it talking about making music with old video game hardware. And so when they were talking about it, they talk about like music composition and performance, the typical things you'd think about. But they also talked about, okay, how do I modify my old Game Boy to make it so that it has new audio ports? Like, how do I write a program to make it so I can compose music with my Game Boy? So they're doing all this computer science stuff and like all this hardware engineering, etc., like modifying, building, manufacturing, etc. And I was having difficulty trying to describe it, because there's like, this isn't just music, this isn't just computer science and engineering, like it all blurs together. So I basically settled on, well, makerspace culture kind of has some words that talk about it, but like there wasn't like this definitive thing I could point to and say, this is X.
Yeah.
So like with STEM, like with the way you're describing it, it just made me think of the dissertation, like, well, yeah, it's STEM, but it's also all these other things. So what do we call that?
And you threw that phrase, makerspace and making and maker education. I think that's like the building step of the theoretical step that STEM often, it's kind of like, that's the action step behind maybe the content step. Yeah, they're so linked together. You can throw project-based learning in there. You can throw design thinking in there. I mean, it doesn't matter what we call it in the end, as long as it's just good, relevant education, good, relevant learning for the kids.
This excerpt of the CSK8 podcast is from episode number 59, which is titled Daily STEM with Chris Woods. You can listen to the full episode as well as hundreds more by searching for the CSK8 podcast on your favorite podcast app or by going to jaredaleary.com.